Hello, Jill Woodworth here to introduce a new podcast that I am starting called Conversations with Friends. And my first episode is coming up following this introduction with Tonya Matthews, a close personal friend, former foster mom, incredible human being, who I am really excited to share our conversation that we had a few weeks ago about her experience in the foster care system as former foster mom of children with fairly significant needs. So we get into all the different dynamics of that, and hopefully we will have more conversations. But I did want to mention I decided to start this podcast back in May of this year when my Facebook got completely hacked and I lost that whole shit of social media. And it was really a blessing in disguise, but it was a little disorienting at first. And I came up with this idea, well, why don't I start a podcast and sit down with some of the people that I really have lost connection with or want to develop a further connection with, kind of just delve into our friendship, hear about what they're doing, what they're passionate about, what their lives have been like, because I really feel like we often don't value what we've been through, what we've lived through. Just we have such a wealth within us that we seem to just surrender and give away to the external, people we put on pedestals, systems, just a whole bunch of stuff, as you know. We're like slaves to everything besides like valuing what we've lived through. And I've ranted about that in previous podcasts and my own little speeches. So I'm putting it together in a podcast, Conversations with Friends. This is episode 1 with Tonya Matthews, incredible human being. Really excited to have her here. Again, I said former foster mom, avid gardener, serves on the school board as the secretary in her town. So walking her talk, and I learned so much about the ins and outs of this type of this system and how many people and systems. I said that a lot. She's interfacing with when she was actively in this role, and she continues to advocate strongly and be very involved with all of her children. Just an inspiration, as I've said. So without further ado, I'm going to say take it away, Tonya Matthews, and stay tuned for more episodes of Conversations with Friends. I'm going to try to put it on about once a month. I will have more information about where to find me on social media below in the YouTube description, but you can find the links there. Hopefully I'll keep it on YouTube for a little while and on many other platforms. So stay tuned, and here we go. Episode number 1. Was Jill Woodworth here, and I am with Tonya Matthews, and this is a conversation with a good friend. I'm still kind of on the fence about naming this podcast, so I'm just going to call it that. Yeah, and we're going to have a conversation about how we met each other. I've been kind of in awe of Tonya since I got to know her a little bit. I remember as a parent of children that have some significant special needs, with a rare disease diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis complex, I remember like not a traumatic memory, a beautiful memory of standing in my friend Lisa Larson's kitchen and her saying, Jill, there's somebody that my friend Rena's working with that has a kid with TSC. She's a foster mom. And like right away, I was like, what? Right. What's that? And like, I think as a special needs, it was like, well, is her kid, what's the level of functioning of her kid? All these thoughts come in, but I immediately like wanted to connect. So then
They're very exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you were living out in the Brookfield still, or on Route 148, I believe.
Yep.
And I showed up pitching some cannabis.
And I love the yeah.
Yeah, well, your kids were. No, I'm just kidding. What? Hi, I'm this crazy lady with, the TSC. Let me be your dealer.
Yeah, the hornet landed on you too, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. That was, that's interesting. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were just, I really enjoyed meeting you and your family when I came out to meet you. And
yeah, it was nice.
It sounds like we could relate. So anyways, why don't you tell me a little bit about, I know you are a former foster mom.
Right.
And you ended up adopting.
Yeah, and then guardianship too, because I
Guardianship.
feel like there's a designation just legally, but it's not in my mind any different. So
Yeah. So you're guardian and adoptive parent.
right, yep, of two
Kids.
boys,
And you
Yep.
have 3.
3 biological children.
Yes, I am sorry. Yeah,
Both semantics sometimes,
it's yep, yep.
and it can matter.
It does matter. As someone that is, gave up my kid as a young parent, I certainly would want to be, that whole dynamic is very important. Anyways, and you're on the school board, just a like fierce advocate for your entire family. That's the way I see you, as like just
Okay, yeah,
such a wealth of knowledge too, and taking on some of the more extreme kids with more extreme needs,
right,
and having been the foster parent for a number of children.
yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me about how you got into that. Just wherever you want to start.
So I guess it was somebody I knew was looking into this ad that we saw on Craigslist, honestly, for intensive foster care. She was going through the process. I was interested in it. I thought that I had my 3 older kids and wasn't done mothering yet. So I thought, I could extend that by then being a foster parent too. So, and because of my strength in advocacy and quick to learn stuff, I just thought that the extra challenge, I don't know, the extra component of having the intensive foster needs was something that really interested me. So that was okay, let's see. That was I should think about this at the time.
No worries. Take your time.
2010. Yeah, that's what it
2010.
was. It was 2010. I took the classes. They have a week-long classes that you have to take. Stan was able to take an abbreviated course at the home, who is my husband.
Right.
And so that process took quite some time. We finally got approved. I started in January. I got approved in like August. And
Wow. That's a long time.
yeah, I know it changed a lot. The process changed a lot now. But there's a bunch of different steps you have to go through. You have to take the class. You have to have the home study done where if they come and visit your house multiple times, take inventory of the safety things that you have here. If, like, for instance, you have to have a fire extinguisher, and there's a certain amount of exits and all this kind of like physical standards that they go through. Make sure they have a room for the child. And how many children then can you take and all that other stuff. So
it's
as a part of
super thorough. Sorry.
yeah. Yeah. As a part of intensive foster care, you could only have 2 intensive children. I do believe that might have changed. I think that determination has changed. And then you couldn't have more than 4 children under the age of 18 total. So we were open for 1 child, and we got our first placement the next year. So maybe it was 2009 that we started. So 2010 was our first placement. Yeah. So we got a little boy, a baby who was 7 weeks old. And he didn't stay very long, but he had been a shaken baby. So he was, so that's a whole set of circumstances there with seizures and whatnot and stuff like that. So he only stayed a short time. He ended up being reunited with his twin sister.
Okay.
And so that family that ended up taking him, ended up adopting him. And because he had so many intensive needs, he couldn't go back to his biological father, who had, he had multiple siblings too. But they've always stayed in touch. So I do hear once in a while from that family still, which is hugely rewarding and just really wonderful. Like the process of being a foster parent is that you sometimes don't get to know what happens, and that's a huge loss for everybody. And he's a child that's lived in your home, who's been a part of your family and a part of everything, and then all of a sudden you don't know what happens to them. That can be really a really challenging part of the whole thing, because you just want them to be okay. That's what you want. So wherever they end up, you just want them to be okay.
Right.
So that started our journey. And then shortly after that, we ended up getting a little boy that was very involved. And um, that was really the start of the
Okay.
whole intensive foster care, really, um, because he had multiple delays and he was, unable to swallow. So he had a G tube and, um,
Wow.
yeah, and so that was just, that was just, I don't know, to go with that. That child,
Was that,
was a huge
yeah,
effect on the whole family.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
so in the process, we were foster parents for 12 years. And, the last child that we had went back to her biological parents, but I don't think that stuck from what I've seen.
Mm.
But the two before that were the ones that we kept. That's how that worked. Yeah, how much detail to go into. Like it's
Well,
such a burden.
no, yeah, I know it's such a journey. I wanted to ask you, like, how did your family, like, I think one thing I picked up on that you said is like the mothering, like, you felt like that is something that you are good at, that you wanted to continue doing,
Yeah.
like, and that you should, yeah, like, find a way to use those skills because not everybody has those. Not everybody is that nurturing and has the ability, the capacity to like bear witness to the kinds of things that you do. And
Right.
you have to keep in touch with well, I mean, I shouldn't say have to. I mean, kind of like you're the hub of the birth parents or the other support network to how the child got put in foster care. Like you have to arrange meetings with the family and
Well, VPF arranges that,
okay,
like sets that up, but there's so many dynamics because then you're dealing with the
right,
child themselves, and then if you see the parents, which you often will see the biological parents, and dealing with them when you have intensive foster care, very often the children come to the doctor appointments that the parents come to the doctor appointments they're supposed to, so that they can keep up with their child's care that they need. So very often you're sitting in doctor appointments with the parents. Um,
wow,
and then trying to play that role of being a parent when you're not the parent and um, ask the questions and give the information because you're the one living with the child and the parents aren't the one living with the child. So that whole dynamic is huge. Sometimes social workers attend those also. So sometimes the room could be really crowded with a lot of people.
oh my
And,
god,
and so here you have to, as a foster parent, you have to figure out what your role is in terms of how much are you saying at a doctor appointment, how much are you letting the bio parent take the lead. You still have questions, you need to answer the questions. And then you also have to let the social worker be in charge because the parents are not your job. Like there's a lot of, and then with that, you have social workers that come to visit. And when you're intensive, you have someone who comes every week too, on top of the DCF worker. And then very often the children have nurses that have to come to visit. There are programs that they belong to. There are multiple doctor appointments. And there's usually some kind of therapists, whether it's OT, PT, speech, early, depending on the age of the child, if earlier interventions coming in, or you have to take them out to get those things. And if the child's school age, there's advocating at the school level with what they need at school. Um, so there are all these providers that you have to
unbelievable.
connect with. And yeah, it's a lot.
And I do they give you training on any level for how to, like, be in that kind of a dynamic when so it's all just you're, like, thrown to the fire. I mean,
Yeah,
I see it as, like, you're stepping into the fire kind of, and you just learn.
right. And then there's this balance that's you try to strike too, where DCF really wants to have all the say but they can't have all the say. They're not there every day. And so their hand in the pot is often very detrimental to the
Really?
child. And so, yeah. And so in my experience, it certainly was, multiple times.
Yeah.
And so having that component is particularly tricky because DCF I'm going to say straight up is I've always said is like the mob.
Yeah,
And
they're like,
they're their own agency. They regulate themselves. There's no checks and balances, very little checks and balances. And they're power hungry. And so when you have a parent like me who's going to advocate, who's going to go the extra mile to get the best, like that child that had the G-tube, I didn't want him on formula. I thought he would do much better on food. So we did blended food. That was a huge battle.
oh man,
They didn't want me taking that kind of initiative. They don't really like you taking that kind of initiative. They don't want you. They just want you to just play this babysitter role.
and yet
It's
walk into
nothing.
situations like doctor's appointments and school meetings where you're like in the middle of all these people, and yet you have no power. So,
Right.
and they
Right.
just want a yes man or a yes woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just wasn't that. And so that did get me into trouble sometimes. And if they threaten to remove children because you have a voice, I'm not the only one. If you have good social workers that understand you, that can help a lot. And that they know that you're the best, that the child, they're looking at the child, best interest of the child, where DCF really caters toward the bio parents a lot of the times, and not the child really isn't considered in the way that everybody would think. And that's really hard to watch, really hard to watch.
Now,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's in terms of social workers, how often are you getting a social worker that you feel like, or were you getting, that you felt like was on your kind of, I don't want to say on your side, but more that got the picture,
Mm.
you know?
Um, so we had, I believe it was 12 children. It's terrible that I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to tally, but, um, and I would say, oh gosh, I would say maybe half. And then of course there's a turnover. So then you have social workers, one child with multiple social workers through the day, and so then they don't know the case and they have to learn the case and all this stuff. And then once the child's goal changes, if it's reunification, adoption, you can add in another social. And then you have the lawyers too. And that's another dirty secret that no one talks about, is that the lawyers are supposed to come out quarterly and they very often don't. And they're advocating and representing these children and they don't even know them. They haven't laid eyes. They don't talk to the providers, like me. Sometimes they don't even talk to the collaterals like the doctors. And then they go in and they tell the judge what the child wants. And they haven't even talked to them. And they're billing for that. I want to talk about that fraud. My gosh, I think
Yeah, because
I'm not
holy,
Disney. I'm not at home anymore. They can't close me. Um, but the fraud that goes on and having lawyers that don't do their job properly, don't visit the kids, that is rampant. That is with
really?
those social workers, understanding the child.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what I'm looking to just get a broader picture of the whole experience, and you're giving it really well.
Yeah,
But
no, that's. Yeah, and then there was retaliation when I complained about one lawyer, and she was trying to take me
why
down.
did you complain about her?
She called my child unadoptable and was also telling me that I had to arrange my meetings when she could do them because she had childcare issues, which is not my problem. So those were the couple of complaints that I made, because that's beyond. So she walked into my house and said my child's unadoptable, and she has no right to say that. That's not her job. You don't talk about children like that. There's somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
It's such a injustice that she had the nerve to say that. And so they kept her on the case, but she did a lot to try to make my life really bad. So
Wow.
every meeting with her was very full of angst and anxiety and constant um, tenseness, but and the daggers being thrown back and forth, and so every visit with her was unpleasant. And then even
Wow.
he tried to bash me in court when I wasn't even there. So she spent a lot of time trying to defame me in court. And I wasn't even there. Had nothing to do with me.
And how did you
Wow.
how did you find that out?
Social worker told me. the social worker told me she was on the stand for at least an hour answering questions about me when it was about the bio parent. That's what this whole court session was about. And then the judge allowed it. And so,
That's a huge can of worms, though. I mean, and
and it
how
would be something to get a news station to take a look at that.
start
But nobody
talking
wants
about,
to talk about it. Really?
yeah, I'm sure there's too many, you know, hands that are being fed by the lawyers and not, well, not too many. It should be talked about. All of this should be talked about.
Yeah, it's definitely known within the foster parent community, but it's not because a lot of parents have fear of retaliation. They want
You
these
know,
children. They want to keep these children in their homes. They want to adopt them even. And if they open their mouth, you can end up with. I mean, look, I don't know what her plan was for me. That child's
yeah.
here still, so it's not like she won to defame me. I don't even know what that lawyer's plan was, but
Yeah, I would wonder, I really wonder why, because I mean, it's obvious that you're taking this. I mean, she can walk into your house and see what you're doing and
right,
see the work that you're doing and the
right.
challenges and that you're able. And
Sheila was
there's,
threatened to report me all the time because she said that I wasn't available for visits. I go, that's not true. You know, that's not true. We arrange visits all the time. And so she looked to threaten me all the time. She's going to take me to court to try to, show the judge that I was uncooperative, which was a complete lie.
you're like always under the gun. I feel like,
Yeah. The microscope is way higher than even the bio parents in the standards and the requirements. You have the intensive foster parent, this paperwork, they have changed DCF also that there's more training. In just training in terms of stuff for the children, which of course you want to be trained, whether it's CPR and first aid, which they didn't require for DCF parents before. Now they do. Intensive
wow.
foster care parents always had to have it. And then there's like 20 hours a year of updating, kind of like a
Mhm.
CEU type, where you just try to stay current and learn about what you need to, whether it's trauma informed practices or could be anything, ADHD or how to go to an IEP meeting, you know, whole bunch of things.
Well, I have so many questions. Um, your family, how did that go when you started out? Like, did it bring you together? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say my older kid, really took to the children and had their own roles with each of the kids. My younger one, who was she was 7 at the time, she was like a little mom. She was always there, helping out, and she loved having the babies all the time. We tended to take younger children because that would suited us best. And having 3 children, a husband around, you needed a set of eyes to be
Oh
able
my
to watch
gosh.
things fine too because of their different delays and stuff. So even if it was just to have someone in a room, so someone was getting hurt or run away, or like in terms of
Yeah.
a little bit with autism type or running,
Yes.
not backing up and taking off on purpose. Um, and so they were just always a helping hand for doctor appointments, and my husband stayed home when we had more emergency type things, and he would make sure that the house was running okay with the kids, and it was great. It was definitely a huge team effort, but it was a lot. And over time, I think everyone got pretty tired. Oh,
Yeah. And also going through the emotional ups and downs of like having to because, you know, you're the front line and they all get attached and then, you all kind of go through a grief process, I'm sure.
yeah, and that definitely wears on you because if you're not doing it right if you don't get attached, and you're not doing the child any justice, and you're setting them up possibly for a lifetime of really, really hard life if you don't get attached. And so we always wanted to because it was just beautiful to have these children and enjoy them like that, and you have experiences with them and that kind of thing. So
Wow.
by having them leave was a process that definitely wore on everybody as time went on, for sure.
And probably no training on that kind of thing either, on the disengagement process
Not
for,
really. There was supposed to be a support from our agency, and there
wow.
wasn't the kind of support that was
Wow.
we were told. So
Holy crap. Yeah. Yeah. And what jumps out to me is, well, many things, but just the boundaries that you have and your instincts are so good. And I do not think that I would be more easily influenced. And I'm just thinking about your background, like your childhood, your life. Like, what do you feel like prepared you to to be such a fierce advocate and to have such like good, I don't know, like good instincts, knowing, you're that I don't know. I find just probably due to whatever I haven't processed yet, um, I would be, probably one of those parents that was more fearful of standing up and fighting for the kids. I don't know. I don't know. I did with
Mm.
my biological kids. So maybe it is something that just comes over you. I don't know. Can you talk more about that though?
Yeah. I think my mom was quite a spitfire and always spoke her mind and didn't take crap from anybody and stuff. So I think it definitely comes a little bit from that. And then I did go to college for early childhood education and got my
Mhm.
bachelor's to teach up to second grade, and then also a degree in psychology.
Okay.
And so my interest was always children. I always, babysat or where I took care of my cousins or took them out or when they got a little older, like it was always me and kids all the time. And so to want to make sure that kids are well taken care of and have everything they need was always the
Mhm.
thing that was very important to me. So it started before I had any kids, yeah, for sure. Um, I had been a live-in nanny. I like a babysat
Wow.
tons of families, went on vacations with families, and um, worked in daycare and taught preschool. And so all of that was before I had any kids.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah. So it was always about what's the best for children. How do you best provide for them and help them develop them to the highest potential and all that stuff. So it was always about me taking care of children. Like that's how it was always
It's
going to
in
be.
your blood, kind of.
Yeah, it really like
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it was definitely not in my blood. A lot of it
four kids later.
didn't come natural. Didn't come
I'm
natural.
sorry.
Uh, yep. So, but yeah, I just always am impressed with that you can just in being on the school board as well, watching you in meetings is like damn.
Making sure that everything is done the way it's supposed to be done. You're trying to ensure that anyway, and that children are getting the best experience that they can have and stuff like that.
Yeah, pull out some of your memorable experiences with, good and bad, I guess, that were, if you can. I don't want to push you too much here. We can always pick this up if you're getting tired, of pulling this stuff up because, uh, yeah, but like the positives and the challenging experiences you've had that jump out at you that kind of like led you, like each, we're learning experiences. Yep.
In terms of just in general,
With the kids,
off the
in
kids,
general, and
yeah.
like, I mean, you've shared stories with me about certain of the kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That might
It's
be
been a big journey, right? So it's, as a mother and stuff, there's a huge journey with that. And um I'm gonna say one of the biggest things for me was I wanted to so when I started parenting, I thought I was gonna parent, I guess the way I was parented. And basically, everyone
right,
always wants
right,
to
right.
prove how their parents parented. And so it was like you say what you do what I say because I say it. And
That
I
was
was doing that a lot with my oldest, especially. And it was not a good style for him at all. And so he was 6. He had gone to his grandparents in another state to visit. And he was there for a week. And he wanted to stay another week. So we did another week. And he was supposed to come back because he wanted to stay a third week. And after the 21 days, I'm like, what's going on? My 6-year-old needs to come home. He was all of 6 years old. He can't, why is he away so long?
right.
Really long time without
It
his
is a long
child.
time.
And he didn't want to come home. And I thought, well, that's a huge wake up call. Uh, why doesn't he want to come home?
Mhm.
And so I knew that I had to change myself so that he didn't feel like everything was way easier without me. And so I had to really adapt how I parented him, in terms of like what battles to pick and how big of a fuss to make about certain things. Um, and that really trickled down from there. I think in a lot of ways that just trickled down to everything that I had to do.
Mhm.
And each kid, very often, each of some of the more challenging kids I've had, whether I birthed them or not, um, I've had to take it down more and be more mindful and tone myself down more and, not be as big of a hard ass or whatever with each kid. And I'm just like, okay, I can't be like a complete, pushover, like rules around here. Um, and that's probably the biggest lesson that I think of, really. There's so
That's
many
a
things
huge one, though.
my whole life because that was my first, my third, and now my youngest. My youngest is, here I'm like, oh my gosh, not again. How can I do this again? Like I thought I learned and evolved with so that
Oh,
I'm
I'm
not
telling you.
picking battles that aren't necessary or whatever, and still dealing with behaviors that you have that are very nuanced and the situations that you really have to read and deal with in a certain way. And so that has been a huge shaping and a wake up call and humbling too,
Totally. Like,
for me, I gotta figure
just
it out. So
just so you were able to reflect. I mean, I don't know. Not every parent would be like, "Is there something about me?" They might just be more. It might ramp up their animosity towards, you know, like if they couldn't sit with that kind of, inner reflection. I can see it going all kinds of
yeah,
south. So
I was
yeah,
lucky
just
that it went that way.
one thing. I mean, that it's a huge thing that you were able to reflect and say, "Huh, maybe I need to do it a little differently." And then, yeah, each kid, like, bringing up, like it's like, I don't know, I wanna say, like, this could be really kinda woo-woo, but God or spirit, like, knows what we need to tweak, and so we get that package if we're willing to open it and, like, listen, right now, right enough yet, please?
Begging you, like, not with the baby.
Yeah,
And they're
seriously.
so challenging and stuff. Yeah. So
Wow.
that was a huge, but there's been a lot. It's just been a wild ride. Um, but one of the fun experiences that we had was, we had a baby, and then we would do we had a baby girl who was so much fun. And, we used to do respite too sometimes. So,
Explain
we had a
respite.
friend who would take babies and she, she would need a break. She was an older foster mom, and so she would need a break, and she would let us have it. And so it was a surprise for my daughter's birthday that we got one of the babies that she loved back to have respite. So we had these 2 babies.
Oh my
Like, "Look,
gosh.
your baby, the birthday, we had 2 babies." Like, it was and that was exciting for her. And we have these really cute pictures of a lot of the babies that we had in her doll stroller, because they were so tiny very often. They were so tiny, they were in the doll stroller. And, so just that excitement, older boys and a daughter too. So, but the boy, they weren't so excited about the babies, but she loved it. She had the best time. And of course, dressing the baby girls. Oh, that was so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, I guess I know. Yeah, there's so much enrichment that you brought in. I'm sure there's, so many challenges. And I think also like learning about the challenges, the medical stuff. Like how
Oh,
did
so
you
much.
start? I mean, and we're just kind of getting an overview. I think we can figure out a
Yeah.
way to break some of these topics down. But how
Baptism
did
by fire. Right.
right,
And then
right.
I did so much reading and asking questions of other people who had experience. For instance, neonatal abstinence syndrome, which I think they don't call it that anymore. I think they changed it, but that's a baby that was born with drug exposure.
Okay.
They don't like to say drug babies. That's not okay. I don't neonatal abstinence syndrome. I think they changed it, but that was what you had was an NAS baby. Um, so learning about that, we had children that 2 babies that had been exposed to a lot of drugs in utero and had the complications from that. Um, and and I do think that some of the stuff with the babies was that they didn't have breast milk from the mom, and so formula is really tricky. So even on a child that doesn't have NAS, but the NAS babies usually had a really hard time with formula. And finding formula was tricky for all the babies. I don't think there was one that was straightforward on formula. So there's also with babies like that, there's a lot of reflux and sleep problems. There's a lot of swaddling that really needs to be done in order to keep them settled so they can stay asleep. Good. They're a lot of times in the swing because they need out movement, and we had a swing that went left to right instead of back and forwards, and that makes it different.
Never knew about that.
But there was a lot of feeding issues in terms of those babies very often have issues swallowing. So whether it's a heavier formula where you have to mix something in the formula, or whether they call it paste feeding, where you hold the baby and the bottle so that the bottle is parallel and not, so gravity's not pulling it down, the baby's sucking it in. And so that'll help regulate so they don't choke. We had one that when he would choke, he would throw up all the play. I mean, we had, so there was that. Then we had a bunch of children that had different genetic disorders that was, a very humbling, amazing, educational, enlightening,
Really?
amazing children that they had these different genetic issues and behind the eight ball, and the strength and I don't know, this is like amazing by design. Just we had one child that had the most severe form of spina bifida. There's 3 different, and she could walk. And those children are not supposed to be able to walk. And she amazed me. She had also been through a lot too. And there was one time we were walking towards a mirror, this big, huge mirror, and she could see herself, and she goes, "I look like I'm walking like a penguin." And I just was like, she was so mad at herself because she was walking like a penguin. She wasn't supposed to be able to walk. Never mind the way her gait, she wasn't happy with. She was
Right.
and she was like, "Girlfriend, like, what are you kidding? Like, I'm letting you." So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Wow.
really testimonies to all kinds of things. Like, who knew that, for instance, when you have spina bifida, because of the issues with toileting and in those nerves not being there, and so really issues with continence and stuff like that, that they very
Makes
often
sense.
have urinary tract infections. Like, who knew? There were so many things that I've learned along the way, and bring in children's genetics appointments where the geneticist can point out different things and saying, well, these are indicators of usually it's something wrong genetically. And some of those things are a flat philtrum. So this like divot here is flatter, or ears that are lower or higher, or an upturned nose, a unibrow. What else? Super long eyelashes. That's another indicator that
Fascinating.
they will check their hands. Very often there's something a little nuanced with the hands. The position of the child's nipples. Like we had one child that had this thing called railroad track ears, and that means you have another 2 folds in your ear. And who even noticed that you only have 1 fold in your ear? I had never noticed and paid attention to that. And he had 2 folds in his whole railroad track ears. And so that indicates that there's a genetic problem. And so it makes them look further into what is going on. So sometimes when the kids are little, they don't know what's wrong, And so as they get older, we will be able to handhold again, found out what it was that they had. And just really amazing. We had childhood Angelman syndrome, and the geneticist said, "Can you tell me anything that you think is a little odd? Like, even if you don't think it matters, just mention it." And I said, she kind of laughs a lot in a weird way. She just laughs sometimes out of nowhere. And sure enough, that's a symptom of Angelman syndrome. Like, who knows? So
Fascinating.
fascinating.
And like you could just jump in, and I guess you're really open to kind of learning new things and exploring. I mean, when we get together, you'd ask me stuff about TSC, like you wanted to pick my brain. You wanted to know everything about it. I thought that was so cool. that you were so
Yeah, especially
open.
with that TSC, and had such a spectrum, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah, it really does.
And yeah, it's amazing. And so many different components that how you can be affected, really.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I thought of another question when you were saying that, but so then you did as you went on, you learned more about it. So you're also doing the service to the kid going forward of having that greater level of understanding about their own biology and condition and for
Mhm.
the next placement or wherever they are.
Yeah, I would always send them with a sheet, of paper with information and stuff. And there was that one girl that went to home to be with her sister,
Mhm.
and I gave the other foster mom tips on her, and she's like, "Wow, I wish we did this more often." And very often, it's not. That's another failing of DCF. It's not encouraged for one family to talk to the next family
Wow.
if child's moved, or it's, something happens, or say they're adopted or something. It's not encouraged, and that's just sad and a huge injustice to the children. I had one girl that ended up going through this kind of invasive testing, and come to find out she had already had that done. Like, she should never have had to endure that again. Um, and
Talk about
so,
traumatizing.
oh my gosh, terrible. Just sad. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I,
that's huge. I didn't realize that. The levels of disconnect within the systems, I think, is really just lethal.
and that's one of the things, right? So it was that girl who had the spina bifida and I said to the new foster mom, I said, she tends not to drink enough in the beginning, and so she's prone to urinary tract infections. You just want to make sure she drinks enough. And these are the things that she likes. So whatever it was. And she was like, so did I maybe prevent so that she didn't have to go through another urinary tract infection, have to do on antibiotics and be sick, and urinary tract infections that can be dangerous,
Nasty.
good all over and all that. And so just by giving her a new foster mom that little tiny tip, and yet it's not encouraged,
I don't
it should
understand
be.
that at all. It's yeah,
Mm. I always
personally,
set them with like a big sheet of like, this is what they
right.
like for bedtime. This is what we usually do. This works. This doesn't work. They really don't like to eat that, but whatever, all that.
It's logical. It's reasonable.
It really is.
It's like yeah, it's like taking everything that you've done and experienced and throwing it away and like,
Mhm. I
yeah,
know. And then you don't even get to find out where they went sometimes.
wow. Wow. Yeah,
Mhm. So
noticed,
it's an emptiness there. Yeah.
jeez. Yeah, and how do you deal with that?
It's a lot. We would do things as a family. We would try to do things all together as a family. Something maybe a little more indulgent. Um, and a lot of times going over pictures, talking about old stories, um, and memories. Yeah,
Yeah.
there, and it's a lot. It gets a little easier, but in the beginning, it's really hard. Once the child, their presence is gone, and now all of a sudden it's empty, and they're gone, and their laughter's not in the house anymore, stuff like that. So it's tough. Yeah.
And just, you can't get through it without feeling it. It's not like you can just have these kids and not get involved and attached. And
Mhm.
so
Well, and then there's
I
the
suppose there are,
really of taking another child in to kind of assuage, the sadness or whatever. If you get a new child in, and
right.
that's the issue, is that there's always another child. There's always another situation. There's always somebody else that needs a bed or a home and a loving family. And so if you want to take a break, which is probably one of the big problems that we had, it was we were going to take breaks, and then they call you with somebody else. And it's really hard to say. It's hard to say.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah, that's huge. I guess, yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but there's so much need out there for people for
Really is.
placements. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, I keep forgetting the next question, but let me just look at my notes really quick. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. So how did you get to the point where you wanted to adopt and like that? I guess it kind of leads where you're saying now, like if you can't, you're always going for the next baby and you see the level of need, so you can't turn away. And then you end up adapting and being guardian for two, adding to your
We had
plate.
never intended to adopt. We had the older children. We were done. We just wanted to be a safe place to land. That's how we really looked at it till they went to there forever, whether it was their bio parents or to a adoptive home. And we hadn't desired to start over again, whatever. But the connection and the bond and the affection that we had for our youngest um, was really strong. And he also was very bonded to us. And we had a bonding study done because the court had asked for it. It's very often something that they do when they want to try to prove that the bio parents can't take the child back.
I see.
And I don't understand it too much because it doesn't add up. They don't use it. They don't really use it. So I don't know why they do. But anyway, they did it. And we asked that psychologist, do you think that he would be okay if he left us? And because we really were concerned about him whenever we left him in respite, he had a really hard time, or even if we had a babysitter or one of us left the house and he got left home with another parent, he still was just really hard to watch us go. He had really a lot of fears and abandonment because of probably his beginnings.
Right.
And so, and he also ended up having a really bad respite experience at about a year and a half old. He went to an approved home for respite care, and it was really bad. It was a really bad experience for him. It was very traumatizing, and they did the poor job of caring for him. And so that created a whole problem.
I'm like, how does that even happen?
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. It's outrageous to think that, that it was that bad. And so he was due to be adopted by a family that was very interested in having him come with them. And in the 11th hour, there was some complications with his birth parents that had to get worked out. And they got worked out. And the prospective mom texted me and said, "Oh, we can go forward now." And in that moment, I was like, there is absolutely no way I can do this again. There is absolutely no way I can say goodbye again. He cannot leave. And the social worker was very much on board with us taking him. Everybody wanted us to take him. Even his bio parents wanted us to take him. And we were like, yep, we were. This is not what our plan was. We're, sorry, whatever. And once it came down to it, the 11th hour, I was like, I can't do it. I can't say goodbye. So we decided that we would keep him. And our other child the other child we had living with us at the time needed a placement too. And I said, well, we're keeping one, we're keeping both. And so that's how we ended up with both of them. And I said that your brothers, that's all they know. The boy that we had before our youngest had been with that other child. And they were adorable together. And I can't even talk about how sweet it was. That little boy went to his aunt, which was a beautiful thing.
Oh, good. Good.
And I think it ended up working out. She didn't keep in touch, but I think it ended up working out. We did see them once at a doctor appointment by chance. But I was just like, we can't, this is the way it has to be. So we ended up keeping those.
Like you knew. Yeah.
That was it. They're part of the community forever.
And just the fact that their biological, they supported that decision. Like you didn't get like pushback or from the biological.
They don't really have much say either.
They don't have much say.
No, they really don't. So they were pleased, but
and a lot of times
what DCF does is this. This is how it works. Your rights are terminated as a parent, bio parent, or they work with you you have to work your plan, and your what they call a treatment plan, And you have to do all the things on it. And very often say there's counseling or there's parenting classes or you have to get a job or an apartment.
Right before your kid comes back.
Right. You have to show that you're in counseling, like all this stuff. So this had gone on for some time. And then what they do for the bio parents is they, at some point, they decide and change the goal to adoption. It can go back and forth. It can go back to reunification too. So that's not set in stone. And then they set a date for a termination of parental rights hearing.
Wow.
And what they do is they tell the bio parents that if you sign away your rights, you can have an open adoption. If you go to court and you lose, then the adoption will be closed. And I think that's kind of dirty.
Yeah. They're putting them over a barrel.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's just it's like the cold hand of the system.
Yeah. And you think about it, right? All the research and as out there that staying in touch with your origin family and your birth family is the best thing for the child. That is what all the information out there says, that the need to belong and to feel like you belong very often is a struggle for these kids who are adopted because they don't necessarily know how loving their family has been. They know that they come from somewhere else and they have a story to tell and questions to ask and stuff like that. And so by staying in contact with their original birth, their original family, so why would DCF do that? You know what I mean? Like, why would they? So,
Oh boy, that's a can of worms right there too.
yeah,
Holy crap.
another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so you got both added
Yep.
to your
And it's
family.
been 3 years that it's been permanent.
Mhm.
But they've been here much longer than that. So, yeah.
3 years. It's been 3 years. Wow. Because I remember when you were like I think the final stages of the process, and yeah. Wow.
And that wasn't easy either. So,
Okay, I got one more question for you before we wrap up. How do you what's your, I want to say, what's your belief system? I mean, talk about do you believe in God? I mean, I know you do, but how is that a resource for you as you walk through these huge, big emotional, you're putting yourself in a place where you know you're going to go through this stuff. So,
when we first started, we had a really strong church family and
okay.
church that we really enjoyed
Hmm.
and we were very involved with. Um, and that they were a huge help in terms of really not so much hands-on help because I'm not
Sure.
for what any of that because that wasn't it. And we were taking the help. That's probably one of the biggest things I want to say. It's like when they say it takes a village, it does. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it's important
To have a village.
to have a village and to break the stigma that these children are not just disasters and
Uh-huh.
horrible behaviors and stuff. Like really get in there and get to know the families and the kids because it's not you're to pigeonhole these children that they're too hard to like babysit or something like that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's just not okay. Um, and but in terms of being supportive and welcoming and praying for our family, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, they were really great.
Yeah.
And not to get into too big of a story, but that ended up being very bad when a new pastor took over. He
Oh,
was nothing, and he's still there. So I guess I should
okay.
watch what I say, but he has been nothing but nasty and
Wow.
really, really damaged my older kids' relationship to what a religion can be like and
Mm.
what a church family can be like. We were part of that family, and my kids had a great belief and a relationship with God, and because of that pastor and the dirty, nasty things he did to us and our family, um, he kind of destroyed that for my older kids.
Understood.
They don't really trust, in anything. So we do have definitely have a belief in God, and we're Christians. We
Mhm.
haven't found a family like that that suits us, but we do enjoy it when
You mean
we
a
can.
church family?
Yeah, church
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
We enjoy it when we can get it.
Mhm.
Um, it's probably not as much like, so my younger kids don't hear about God and stuff the way my older kids did. So I do feel like that's too bad.
It's
But I do
tough.
believe we do have, we have a belief and support with God. It was a big mission with the foster care we felt called.
Yeah.
And that how it came, about was it felt like a calling, and if it was meant to happen, all these steps would happen. So every time when my husband was like, I don't know, should we do this? Because there are going to be apprehensions. I was like,
Yeah.
well, God will give us, we will get past the next step unless it's meant to be. And so here we are,
Yeah.
so many years later. And, so I do, we do have that Christian faith. And then of course I branched out in terms of like universe and spirit
Right.
and
It's kind of
energy and all
expanding
that.
your
Yeah,
your
but I think
understanding a
it's
little
all
bit.
connected. It's all
Yeah.
connected and all that. And so, but just really having a bigger picture of more than I understood before. So
And that helps you be able to personally navigate.
yeah, 100%.
I guess that's kind of like an understatement, but it's all faith. Yeah. I mean, I do like just that, like, there's no way I see.
Our tree grounding and everything else, and the forest bathing and all the stuff, right?
Yeah, I should share that we meet and we go for walks, and we've kind of
Connect with
encouraged
nature.
each other on our paths here in nature. Yes, has been huge. And I love it that you have incorporated that with your family as well, and the horseback riding and the what is it, Turnback Time camp, and yeah. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I think that's probably. What do you think? Do you think that's good for our
I
first
think that's
record?
good. Yeah.
You kind of did an overview. I want to go back and listen to it, and like I think we need a part two.
So,
But yeah, it's just to
I
let.
know I can get down to the big stories. I don't know. Oh,
Well, yeah, just kind of
yeah.
going into the weeds a little bit on some of these issues that you brought up, because I don't know, people need to hear about like the.
No, yeah, even the injustice with the kids, um, in terms of the medical stuff, that whole can of worms
I didn't
that
even go into that.
because of the DCF in there, you can't.
That flashed in front of my head when you were saying sitting in the doctor's office. I thought about like how's it been through COVID with your own understanding of what's going on, and then the rules that you have to comply
Yeah,
with
yeah,
your children.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good lead in for our next.
Yeah, and a lot of requirements on foster parents now in terms of their own vaccination.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I think it's going to extend to, you know, I'm not sure how it's going to extend through into like the disability, mass health type requirements that if you're getting that,
No.
this kind of support, yeah, but conversation for another day.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to do it again. And, all right, I'm just going to stop recording and then